Dr. Thomas Neill Cream, also known as the Lambeth Poisoner, was a Scottish-Canadian serial killer who claimed his first proven victims in the United States and the rest in England, and possibly others in Canada and Scotland. Cream, who poisoned his victims, was executed after his attempts to frame others for his crimes brought him to the attention of London police. Unsubstantiated rumors suggested his last words as he was being hanged were a confession that he was Jack the Ripper, even though he was supposed to be in prison at the time of the Ripper murders. Early life. Born in Glasgow, Cream was raised outside Quebec City, Canada. After his family moved there in 1854, he attended McGill University in Montreal and graduated with an MD-CM degree in 1876. His thesis topic was chloroform, and he then went for postgraduate training at St. Thomas's Hospital Medical School in London. In 1876, Cream married Flora Brooks, whom he had impregnated and almost killed while aborting the baby. Flora died, apparently of consumption, in 1877, a death for which Cream would later be blamed. Cream went to London in 1876 for postgraduate study at St. Thomas's Hospital and later obtained additional qualifications as a physician and surgeon in Edinburgh in 1878. He then returned to Canada to practice in London, Ontario. In August 1879, Kate Gardner, a woman with whom he was alleged to have had an affair, was found dead in an alley while behind Cream's office, pregnant and poisoned by chloroform. Cream claimed that she had been made pregnant by a prominent local businessman, but after being accused of both murder and blackmail, fled to the United States. Chicago. Cream established a medical practice not far from the red light district in Chicago, offering illegal abortions to prostitutes. He was investigated in August 1880 after the death of Mary Ann Faulkner, a woman on whom he had allegedly operated, but he escaped prosecution due to lack of evidence. In December 1880, another patient, Miss Stack, died after treatment by Cream, and he subsequently attempted to blackmail a pharmacist who had made up the prescription. In April 1881, a woman named Alice Montgomery died of strychnine poisoning following an abortion in a rooming house barely a block from Cream's office. The case was ruled a murder but never solved. The location, time period, and method make Cream a likely suspect. On the 14th of July 1881, Daniel Stott died of strychnine poisoning at his home in Boone County, Illinois, after Cream supplied him with an alleged remedy for epilepsy. The death was attributed to natural causes, but Cream wrote to the coroner blaming the pharmacist for the death after again attempting blackmail. Cream was arrested, along with Mrs. Julia A. Abby Stott, who had become Cream's mistress and procured poison from Cream to do away with her husband. She turned state's evidence to avoid jail, laying the blame on Cream, which left him to face a murder conviction on his own. He was sentenced to life imprisonment in Joliet Prison. Cream was released in July 1891 when Governor Joseph W. Pfeiffer commuted his sentence after Cream's brother pleaded for leniency, allegedly also bribing the authorities. London. Using money inherited from his father, who had died in 1887, Cream sailed for England, arriving in Liverpool on the 1st of October 1891. He returned to London and took lodgings at 103 Lambeth Palace Road. At the time, Lambeth was ridden with poverty, petty crime and prostitution. On the 13th of October 1891, Ellen Nellie Dunworth, a 19-year-old prostitute, accepted a drink from Cream. She was severely ill the next day and died on the 16th of October from strychnine poisoning. During her inquest, Cream wrote to the coroner offering to name the murderer in return for a $300,000 reward. He also wrote to W. F. D. Smith, owner of the W. H. Smith bookstalls, accusing him of the murder and demanding money for his silence. On the 20th of October, Cream met with a 27-year-old prostitute named Matilda Clover. She became ill and died the next morning. Her death was at first attributed to her alcoholism. Cream wrote a note to the prominent physician Dr. William Broadbent. The note accused Broadbent of poisoning Matilda Clover and demanded cash. Broadbent sent his letter to Scotland Yard on the 2nd of April 1892. After a vacation in Canada, Cream was back in London where he attempted to poison Lou Harvey, née Louise Harris, who, being suspicious of him, pretended to swallow the pills he had given her. She secretly disposed of them by throwing them off a bridge into the River Thames. On the 11th of April, Cream met two prostitutes, Alice Marsh, 21, and Emma Shrivel, 18, and talked his way into their flat where he offered them bottles of Guinness. Cream left before the strychnine he had added to the drinks took effect. Both women died in agony. Capture. Through his accusatory letters, Cream succeeded in drawing significant attention toward himself. Not only did the police quickly determine the innocence of those accused, but they realized that there was something significant within the accusations made by the anonymous letter writer. He had referred to the murder of Matilda Clover. In fact, Clover's death had been registered under natural causes related to her drinking. The police quickly realized that the false accuser who had written the letter was the serial killer now referred to in the newspapers as the Lambeth Poisoner. Not long afterwards, Cream met a policeman from New York City who was visiting London. The policeman had heard of the Lambeth Poisoner, and Cream gave him a brief tour of where the various victims had lived. The American happened to mention it to a British policeman who found Cream's detailed knowledge of the case suspicious. The police at Scotland Yard put Cream under surveillance, soon discovering his habit of visiting prostitutes. They also contacted police in the United States and learned of their suspect's conviction for a murder by poison in 1881. On the 3rd of June 1892, Cream was arrested for the murder of Matilda Clover, and on the 13th of July he was formally charged with the murders of Clover, Dunworth, Marsh and Shrivel, the attempted murder of Harvey, and extortion. Less than a month after his conviction, on the 15th of November, Cream was hanged on the gallows at Newgate Prison by James Billington. As was customary with all executed criminals, his body was buried the same day in an unmarked grave within the prison walls. His name does not appear in later McGill graduate directories. I am Jack B. Billington claimed that Cream's last words on the scaffold were, "I am Jack B." One of Cream's biographers suggested that Cream, on the scaffold and about to be hanged, was so frightened that he lost control of his bodily functions and stammered, "I am ejaculating," which could have been mistaken for, "I am Jack." English-Canadian writer Chris Scott won an Arthur Ellis Award for Best Crime Novel in 1989 for Jack, a novel based on the premise that Cream actually was Jack the Ripper. Analysis. The motivation for the series of poisonings has never been settled. It has generally been assumed that Cream was a sadist who enjoyed the thought of the agonies of his victims, even if he was not physically present to witness these. However, Cream was also interested in money, as evidenced by his attempts at extortion in almost all of his crimes. So it remains a possibility that he committed the murders under the pretense of ill-planned attempts to profit off of them. From the start of the series of crimes, Cream wrote blackmail notes to prominent people, and the poisoning of his one known male victim, Daniel Stott, was in the hopes that Stott's wealthy widow would now share the deceased's estate with him, including the 5 poisonings Cream was convicted for. He is also suspected in the murder of his wife Flora Brooks in 1877. and at least 4 other women who died in his care while undergoing abortions.